Hi, everyone. Just getting ready here. Just want to make sure that you can hear us well. Everybody can hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you good.
Yeah, awesome. Just want to make sure. Today we're doing this from our home because, you know, PD day for us as well, right? That didn't want to drag the kids to work just to do that. So since, you know, it's a kids class, it's a little casual and everything. So we're doing this from our home. So welcome to our kitchen today. All right, just give us a couple minutes to get set up. Just fixing a few things. You get to see all of our mess today. Okay. Okay, so I don't think everybody is here. Sometimes we have people that register and they don't join, like they're just gonna join later or watch the recording. So we're first gonna start by talking a little bit, maybe some other people are gonna join in the meantime. Hello everyone, my name is Valentine and this is my little chef, Elisa. And we are at home today, but otherwise we are from Eden in Property. That's where the store and the cooking class are. Before we start anything, I just want to let you know that we are recording this session. This time we are recording and it's working, I promise, because we had changes this time. So if you want to turn off your video, you can, because we won't see your video unless you actually stop talking though. So don't worry about it. You can leave it on. But if you do talk, your video will pop up on the screen. So I'm just letting you know for privacy reason, if you want to turn off your video, you can do that. For the sound, we prefer that you leave yourself on mute during the class because otherwise it's a lot of background noises. And then of course, anytime you have a question, just unmute yourself, ask your question. You can also use the chat. We have the computer in front of us here, so we're gonna keep looking at the chat and see if you have questions, and we'll read them out loud when you have some. But if you see that we are ignoring your question, that's probably because we're too busy, so just unmute yourself and ask. It's the easiest way. Okay, so today we're gonna make pretzels. So good and so easy, and it's kind of an easy recipe to get started with rice dough if you've never done any. So do some of you already make the dough, or are we all starting from scratch? Some of you made the dough.
Yes, I already made my dough.
Awesome. Okay. But
made ours dough too.
Okay, cool. So that means that you already know what you're doing, right? So what we could do is, should we start by shaping them? Because it looks like there's a lot of people that made their dough.
We need to make the dough.
Don't worry, for those of you who didn't make the dough, we're still gonna make one with you. Yeah, so we have a dough here that we made about an hour ago. It's nice and fluffy, right? So we're gonna take that out and put it on the counter. So while Elisa is doing that, just to let you know, I forgot to put on the recipe, so I hope you have baking soda at home. For the pretzels, we need to dip them in a solution of water and baking soda before we bake them. So the ratio is 1 cup of hot water with 1.5 tablespoons of baking soda. I'm sorry, I forgot to put this in the recipe. So before you start shaping, or while one is shaping, another one can do that, prepare a bowl like this, quite large because you need to be able to dip your pretzel in it, and put 1 cup of hot water with 1.5 tablespoons of baking soda. And then you mix it and you can leave it on the side here, okay? 1.5 tablespoons, is that what I said? Yeah, 1.5 tablespoons. 1.5 tablespoons is 1 tablespoon and a half. We're doing math at the same time. All right, with the dough that we have here, we're gonna cut it in 6 pieces. So you can use a knife or a pastry scraper. And then while Isa is working on that, I will also slowly guide you into making the dough for those of you that haven't made the dough yet. So what she's gonna do is cut it in 6 equal pieces. Of course, if you want smaller pretzel, you can do smaller, but those will make like a nice size pretzel about this big, okay? And then what, you don't need that, but you could take a measuring tape. It kind of helps to have an idea of how long you're rolling your dough. We want to do like very thin strands of rolled dough that we're going to shape in the pretzel after. So if you have a rolling tape and that helps for you, you can take it out. And also for those of you that are going to bake, you want to turn on your oven now. It needs to be pretty hot, so turn it on at 425 if you have the convection fan, or 450 if you have just regular heating. So if you do have a measuring tape, measure it out, take it out so that it's 30 inches. So see, it's pretty big, right? So 30 inches is pretty long, so it's taking almost all of the contour here. So we put it like this in front of us because it helps just seeing how longer strand should be. But again, you don't have to do that. So see, Lisa is gonna roll like some very long strand and try to achieve that 30 inches. Moving all of this over there, so it's not in the way. Giving you some, there you go. All the way to here. So try as best as you can to roll to 30. I can show you a little trick on the side here. If you roll and you find that your dough is getting like too thin on one side than the other, that's because you're putting too much pressure on the side. So when you roll, you can try a little bit longer, but it's pretty good. So when you roll, you start by rolling like this, and then put your 2 hands in the middle, like that. And as you roll, you slowly space your hands away from each other, like that. Then you go back in the middle and keep doing that. You're slowly pacing your hands from each other towards the end. So by doing this, you're rolling the dough and like stretching it at the same time, okay? So that helps having like a more even kind of dough. Good. All right, so hold on because I need to show them that shape properly, right? So Lisa's gonna show you how to, I'm gonna try to bring the camera closer to show you how she's shaping the pretzel. We're gonna do more, don't worry. All right.
Can you tell us how long they're supposed to be again?
It's 30 inches approximately.
Thank you.
So doing a little loop like this and up, upside down it goes. There you go. That's how you do one. We're gonna show you again, don't worry. But yeah, it's, you know, this is the typical pretzel shape. And the thing is that you don't need to do that shape, right? It doesn't have to be like this. If you wanna cut small pieces or do a long one or just do whatever you want. If you wanna do a circle instead, you can make a long one, but the long one is gonna be hard to put in push. So me on the side here, what I'm gonna get ready is my baking tray. So baking tray, it's best to line them for this recipe with a silicone pad if you have, because it has kind of like almost that greasy feeling to it. So if you don't have a silicone pad, just oil your pan very well, okay? It works better than parchment paper because the oven is so hot that the parchment paper might actually burn on the side. So it's not really recommended to use parchment paper. So if you don't have silicone mat, just oil your pan very well. You can use canola oil, something that can go pretty high. Otherwise, if you have silicone pads, so that's what they look like, you can use that. So just getting those ready. And I don't know about you, but we're gonna do some salty pretzel, the original recipe. And we're gonna do some cinnamon sugar pretzel. So you don't have to, but you might want to separate the salty one from the sweet one, because the salty one, we put the salt on before we bake them. And the cinnamon sugar one, we just don't put anything on them. And we put the cinnamon sugar after they are baked. So it doesn't need to be on separate pan, but I'm just giving you some ideas. See the tips? Look at the technique. Pretty cool, huh? By doing that, she's kind of like stretching the dough without like ripping it, and it's giving it a little bit more flexibility. Also, you know, sometimes those type of doughs, just like making pizza, sometimes you want to roll it, and then it just doesn't want to be rolled. It just retracts on itself all the time. Oh no, you went too far on it. You broke it. That's okay. So if that happens, if you try to stretch your dough and it just doesn't want to be stretched and it keeps retracting, that means that your dough is too stressed out. That means that you touch it or you work it too much. So all you need to do is to just let it rest for a little bit, like 5 minutes, and then you can try to roll again. And then it's going to be a little bit softer and it's going to allow you to do it again. So what you can do is that you can kind of pre-roll a little bit your dough to like maybe half of the shape. And then if it's giving you trouble and it's retracting, then just leave it like that. Leave it on the side for 5 minutes. And then you work on the other one in the meantime. And then after 5 minutes, you can go back to that guy that you pre-shaped and then continue to roll it. Okay. So we're gonna do, so you keep working on that. I'm gonna keep telling people, for those of you, so is there anybody that just didn't do the dough yet and you want us to show you how to make the dough? Because I can start that while Elisa is finishing the rolling.
I didn't do the dough.
You didn't do the dough, okay. All right, so let's do that.
I do.
Okay. For making the dough, you want to start with some warm milk, okay? So we measure the milk. So how much was that, Elisa? It was 1 cup of milk? Okay, 1 cup of milk, and how much sugar, do you remember? 1 tablespoon of sugar. So we put the milk and the sugar in that little bowl here. And we're gonna warm it up in the microwave for like 30 seconds to 45 seconds until it's just warm to the touch. So you put a finger in it and it should feel just warm, like a bath, you know? So let's warm up the milk. I mean, anywhere from 30 seconds to 1 minute, depending on your microwave. You don't want it to be too hot either. If you put your finger in it and it feels hot, that means it's too hot. Just like a bath again. So it just needs to be warm. What about the tablespoon? How much, how much yeast do we have? 1 tablespoon, like a spoon like this. Okay. So the yeast that we use is dry active yeast. I don't know if you will have a big package like this, but you could either say instant yeast on it or dry active yeast, both will work. And we're gonna use 1 tablespoon. Okay. So I warm up my milk. Stir it, just make sure it's not too hot, too cold. It's actually too hot, sorry. I left it for a little bit longer than I should. Just fix that with some cold milk. Okay, so now it feels right. It feels just warm. So there is the sugar and milk, and you're gonna put your 1 tablespoon of yeast in there. All right. And then you're gonna mix that with a fork or a whisk, a little whisk. Just mix, and then, you know, the yeast is not gonna dissolve completely. You're gonna see the little grains for a little bit. That's normal. It takes a little while to actually dissolve completely, but just mix it enough so that the yeast kind of really gets incorporated into the milk. And then we need to let it set. We need to let it bubble. Okay, so now we're gonna just leave it aside for 5 minutes to make sure that it's bubbling. You always want to do that before you start your recipe because sometimes your yeast can die. It takes a long time to die, but if you had it for a really long time, it might be dead. It's actually a living thing. So if you want to make sure that your yeast is still alive before you start the recipe, then do a test like maybe before you start the recipe because you might have to run out to the store for some fresh yeast. So we're gonna wait 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes, we should start seeing some bubbles on top of the yeast, right? So when you see some bubbling, that means that your yeast is alive and it's ready to work, okay? So we leave that aside, and then while this is happening, you can prepare your dry ingredient. So in the bowl here, we have 2 cups and a quarter of all-purpose flour. You could use bread flour for that recipe, that works just as well. And some salt. Do you remember the salt? Half teaspoon? Half teaspoon of salt is in there. So the flour and the salt here, that's all there is. Okay. The other thing you want to prepare is some butter. It's just roughly 1 tablespoon of butter. If you're using a scale, it's about 15 grams of butter. And I put it in a little container like this because we want it to be soft, okay? So if it's not warm in your kitchen, you might want to microwave the butter. You want it soft, but not melted, okay? So just if you use your microwave, be careful, just do 10 seconds at a time. You want to be able to really push your finger through it very easily, but you don't want to melt it completely, okay? So you can prepare that and leave that aside. All right, so Elisa is finished rolling. Just want to show you what to do with the water solution for those of you that are ready. If you're not ready, don't worry, take your time. You don't have to do this right away. Hold on a second. Before we do this, we need to have what ready? The salt, right? So for if you're making salty pretzel, have your salt ready. So you can use any sort of big grainy salt. There is a special pretzel salt. No, we're gonna use the other one. But if you don't have pretzel salt, you can use fleur de sel or anything that's a little bit coarse, right? Like, you know, anything that has little crystal of salt, right?
Do you think you could show us how to fold the pretzel again?
We need to show you again? Okay, sure.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Can we destroy one to show it again? Which one do you want to destroy? This one? Okay. Can we do that quickly? Or if you want, we'll do it. Want me to do it here? Hold on, because it's not easy when you need to roll something so long and we're kind of lacking space. Oh, hold on a second, Elisa, because I'm gonna do this first. And I'm gonna need some space. So I'm just gonna roll that. And if you can show them the shape, because Elisa is the shaper. I didn't even shape any of the pretzel that we made last time. Okay, so you want to roll it long. I might not be able to roll it that long because see my dough is a little stressed out because we just rolled it so it's retracting, but it's just to show you, right? And then I'm gonna let Elisa show you how she shaped that. Okay, there you go. So hold on a second. I'm gonna put the camera so that we can see very well. All right, so go slowly so that they can see what you're doing. So you do a circle first, and then there is one side that go over the other, right? And then twist, one twist, and then you bring that twist over to the other side. Just like that. That's it. And then you push those little ends here so that it sticks to the dough. There you go. Does that work for you guys?
Yes. Could you do that? Could you do it one more time? I think maybe I stretched mine too long. I don't know what we did wrong.
We can do it.
Just the twisting part. Yeah.
Hold on. I'm just gonna undo it from where we were. I tried myself, I haven't tried yet.
Okay.
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 So you do it round first, right? And then you bring one side over the other, right? Like that. And then you do a twist with the two. So it looks like this now. Okay. And then those two little ends, you flip them over to bring them to the other side, like that. Does that make sense now? Yeah?
Yes, thank you.
Of course. And also we're gonna send you the recording so you can like replay over and over and over after.
Oh, good, thank you.
Okay, so for those of you who have your shape ready, so you have your water and baking soda solution here. So the pretzel need to be dipped in that solution so that they have the pretzel shine, you know, on the outside. So we're gonna dip the whole thing in there for how long? About 10 seconds? Yeah, about 10 seconds. So just make sure that every, both sides gets into the water, right? For about 10 seconds.
And Valentine, can you just tell the quantities again? Was it 1.5 teaspoon of soda, 1.5 cup of water?
So it was 1 cup of water and 1.5 tablespoon of baking soda. 2 cups.
Okay.
We use 2 cups of water. You don't have to, but we find it easier to dunk the whole thing. If you have a little bit less water, you might have to flip it over.
Got you.
Yeah, it's 1 cup of water for 1.5 tablespoon of baking soda. So if you double, it's 2 cups of water for 3 tablespoons of baking soda. Yes. And then right after you take it out the water, if you're making salty pretzel, you want to sprinkle a good amount of salt on the top. And do it right away when it comes out of the water because at least the salt sticks to the pretzel better. So that's only if you want to do them salty. If you want to do them sweet, then just dunk it in the water, put it on the tray, and then just don't put anything on it. The sugar will come after the baking, okay? Yeah, sometimes, so you gotta be careful when you dunk them, like sometimes it loses its shape a little bit. Well, that's okay. It's still gonna be really good, no worries. All right, so the dunking of the pretzel is happening over there. And while Elisa is doing that, I'm gonna finish the dough recipe for those of you that have not done it. So look at this. Look at the bubbling in there. So it's been more than 5 minutes because we were talking and talking and talking, but there's lots of bubbling and foaming in here, right? So that means that my yeast is super active. So when it's like that, it's ready to go, okay? If you don't see any bubbling like this, then that means your yeast is not good. Okay, I'm gonna use this bowl because we're gonna use the KitchenAid. You don't have to use a KitchenAid. I can show you also how to do it by hand. But pretty much, you're gonna put all your dry ingredients into the bowl, so a large mixing bowl. And then you're gonna just pour all of the liquid. So I like to just stir it again before I add it in, because there is so much foam on the top. You're gonna put all of this liquid into the flour. You can do it in stages, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. One way or another, they will work. And then with your hands, just go ahead and mix that. And at first, it's gonna be pretty sticky. And if you wanna use the KitchenAid mixer, you can. So just put everything in and use the hook attachment and just turn it on and let the KitchenAid mixer do its thing. And you just leave it on and on until the dough comes together. And next will be to add the butter. So if you do it by hand, you don't want to add the butter just yet, okay? Just make sure that you get a nice dough first. If you want to use it,
I'm sorry. My sound disconnected and I couldn't hear you. So what do we mix in the bowl?
So here there was the dry ingredient, which is the flour and salt. And I added the milk where there was the yeast and the sugar. And we are just mixing all of that. So right now it's pretty sticky, right? But the more you mix it, you can use your 2 hands if you want. The more you mix it, the better your dough is gonna get. And like I say, if you want to use your KitchenAid mixer, your stand-up mixer, just do that with the stand-up mixer. Just put the hook attachment and let it do the work. Okay. So if you don't have the KitchenAid mixer, I'll show you. What I like to do is to put this on the table after. Bring a little bit of flour in front of you because it's sticky. And then you're just gonna knead that dough on your countertop until it becomes nice and smooth. So it's sticky at first, just add your extra flour. And then you're just gonna knead it like a bread dough until our dough is looking nice and smooth. And it's pretty sticky at the beginning. It's gonna get better, that's normal. You can add a little bit more flour, but don't add too much because this dough is supposed to be a bit sticky, okay? That's the kind of dough that I kind of like living in the KitchenAid mixer because it is a little bit stickier than a regular bread dough. So it's a bit messy on your hand, see, it sticks, but that's okay. You know, all it needs is just to be well blended, right? So when you have something that is quite smooth like this, it's sticky, but it's smooth, meaning you don't see the flour in the dough anymore. Everything is well blended. Then you can start adding the butter a little bit at a time. So if you have the KitchenAid mixer, you can just add the butter in the KitchenAid mixer, but just don't add the whole thing at once. Make sure that first of all, your butter is soft. So you should be able to press it with your finger like this. And you add about a third of the butter at the time. So you just blend that in and mix. All right, so Elisa is ready with her pretzel. So they all been dipped in the solution. And our oven is ready. So we're gonna start baking. And I think last time we baked for 10 minutes with our oven. 10 to 12 minutes. Again, oven door is terribly loud. Sorry about this, it's crazy. Oven is pretty fast. So I think we started with 10 minutes. If you're not sure, start with 10 minutes because it's always better to start with less and put more after. So start with 10 minutes. And then if you see that there is not enough color, you can add a couple more minutes to it. So of course, the timer here is Google. So Elisa just ask Google to start the time. You can make a mini one with that, yeah. All right, so see, it's just working on our dough here. So make sure that when you incorporate the butter, you work it enough so that the butter disappears in there. And this is my, okay. You're gonna try to bake pretzel in the toaster? All right, sure. My last addition of butter. See, that's why it's important for the butter to be soft but not melted because it would be impossible to mix like that, right? If you want, you can use a dough scraper as well for mixing that. Sorry, this because the dough is a bit sticky. You can use a dough scraper like this too. So work your dough. So once in a while, you scrape it off the counter and then continue mixing. And again, KitchenAid can do all of that for you if you don't want to bother. Yeah, that's enough. What are you guys doing? Everything going good? Yeah, awesome. Some of you have the pretzel in the oven already? Not yet?
Mine are in.
Okay, so for those of you that have the pretzel in the oven, what you could do while your pretzels are baking is to melt some butter because we want to brush the pretzel when they are nice and fresh with some melted butter right when they come out of the oven, okay? So melt a little bit of butter, about 2 tablespoons. Have that ready. You can use a pastry brush, or if you don't have a pastry brush, just use your finger. Just make sure the butter is not too hot if you're gonna use your finger. And if you make only salty pretzel, you only need to just brush with butter when they come out. If you're making the sweet pretzel, so what we're gonna do is cinnamon sugar. So if you wanna do cinnamon sugar, you're gonna brush the butter on both sides of your pretzel, so up and down. And then you're gonna roll it in the cinnamon sugar right away, okay? Because you wanna roll it right away because otherwise the butter is gonna get absorbed by the dough and it's not gonna hold in the sugar to the dough. So you can prepare the melted sugar and, sorry, the melted butter and your cinnamon sugar. The cinnamon sugar, put it in the bigger plates, right? So you can actually dunk both sides of your pretzel. Yep, we're gonna need more. That's just the butter over there. Might be in that.
How much sugar to how much cinnamon?
So if you do
I'm doing 3 of mine salted and I'm doing the other 3 sweet.
Awesome. So if you want to do cinnamon sugar yourself, do 1 cup of sugar and 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. That's the ratio that I use.
For the 3, or is that for 6?
Oh, that would be enough for 6. But it's just if you have some extra, you can just use it for something else after. So, you know, you just make a cup of cinnamon sugar and you can use it for anything after. Okay,
sorry. So it was 1 cup of sugar to 1 tablespoon of cinnamon?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, thank you so much.
No worries. And then the temperature oven should be at 425 if you use convection, or 450 if it's regular baking. Okay. Okay, I think my dough is pretty good. I don't know where you're at with your dough for those of one that I'm mixing, but see, it's kind of nice and smooth, still sticky. That's normal, the stickiness, okay? It's a bit sticky, but it's not as sticky as before, and it's really nice and smooth, right? Meaning that you don't see the butter anymore, you don't see traces of flour anymore, and that's what we want. Like the dough is sticky, but it's a nice, glossy, good-looking dough, okay? So pretty much you give it about 3 to 5 minutes of kneading total. That's enough, okay? That's why pretzel is pretty easy. It's quite low maintenance actually. And then, so when you're ready with your dough, when it's all done, you put it in a clear bowl. You can put a little bit of oil at the bottom so that the dough doesn't stick. Just a tiny bit of oil. Oil your bowl like this. And you put your dough in the bowl and you let it rest at room temperature, covered. You can cover it with a plate or with a wet cloth or plastic wrap, and you let it rise like this at room temperature for an hour, and that's it, okay? And then after an hour, you start back where we were before, which is like the shaping of the pretzel. So since we're gonna send you the recording after the class, you know, the recording should arrive right on time for you guys to be shaping. So no worries about that. Okay, so now that we're kind of like waiting for pretzel to cook, if you guys wanna ask any question, we have.
With the pretzels, do you, once you dip them in the soda, do you put them in the oven?
Yeah, so after you dip them in the soda, the baking soda solution, you put them on your tray and then you go and bake them. But again, remember, if you're doing a salty pretzel, you want to make sure to put the salt on top of your pretzel before you bake them. Okay.
Thank you.
No worries. Like this, the salt will attach to the pretzel really good. And when you brush them with the butter, the salt shouldn't come off. All right. I'm just gonna wash my hand in the meantime. So did I work that pretzel in the toaster? Oh, cool. So Elisa.
How long is it for cooking?
For cooking, so start with 10 minutes. And then if you find
Thank you.
if after 10 minutes it looks like it's not dark enough, you can do 2 or 3 more minutes. Okay?
Thank you.
No worries. But since everybody's oven is kind of different, it's always better to start with less time and then see how it goes. And you really go by the color for pretzel, right? So if after 10 minutes it looks still very, very pale, then just add more time until the color looks right. So Elisa tried to do a pretzel in the toaster with her mini pretzel. Oh my God, it's
Before everybody else finished talking.
Okay, was it? That's why you need to oil your pan really well, right? But see, she's doing a micro test with a tiny piece there. And you brush, so she brushed it with butter, and then right away she dunked it into the cinnamon sugar. It's kind of like making toast.
How do you make the sugar solution?
I'm sorry again?
How do you make the sugar solution?
The sugar and cinnamon.
Sugar and cinnamon.
Oh, sugar and cinnamon. So it's 1 cup of sugar with 1 tablespoon of cinnamon, and then you mix it together.
Any other solution?
Any other solution?
The baking soda solution?
No, for baking, after baking.
After baking.
The cinnamon and sugar.
So after baking, you brush melted butter on top of your pretzel.
Brush butter, yeah.
And then you can dunk it into cinnamon sugar if you want. Otherwise, you just leave it like that. Just melted sugar.
Brush with butter and then solution. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Say thank you.
Thank you.
Turn it off.
You're welcome. Okay, so see, our oven is pretty fast, so our pretzel are almost done. So we're gonna just hang out with you guys until they're done, so we'll show you what we do with the cinnamon sugar. If you don't want to wait, no worries. You can, if you have to go, you can go and do your own thing, and then we will send you the recording anyway. But they are almost done. So when they are done, again, make sure before your pretzel come out of the oven that you have your melted butter ready. With a little brush if you happen to have one. Barbecue brushes work well too. You know, those silicone barbecue brush, if that's what you have, that will work too. So melted butter. Okay, we want to make sure that we have something to put the hot pan on the table. Well, you get to see our messy kitchen for today. Instead of the well, beautiful, organized kitchen of Eden West. So you have to cover it. Yeah, we have to cover it. That's right. Hey, so I'm mom too, right? I can't really complain. It's a pretty good kitchen, and it's usually not that clean. It's just because we have you in the kitchen today. We actually move all of the mess behind the camera. You can't see it. All right. Are you guys getting hungry? Can you smell those pretzels in the kitchen already? Is it exciting? I can smell it. Okay. We have 1 batch ready, so those are the salty ones. So see, that's how they look like. And there you go. So if it's salty one, there is like coarse salt on top. And all you need is to brush some sugar on top of that. Okay, sorry. Brush some melted butter on top of that. So be careful, it's hot, okay? Don't burn yourself with the hot plate. You want to be brushing your melted butter, but be careful because the tray here is really hot, okay? So make sure to keep your arms up. You can't see your arms because of the big sweater. You can go with a little bit darker color if you prefer. That's totally fine. It's just going to be a bit more crispy if you go longer. And so we also noticed last time we were trying that, of course, that's our timer. Okay, Google, stop the timer.
You just asked about canceling the time. Actually, none said at the moment.
Okay, Google. Google's talking to us. What was I saying? Oh yeah, of course you want to eat one right away because it smells so good that you're like, oh my god, I need to eat this right away. And of course it's delicious when it's freshly baked. But if you want the true pretzel, kind of a chewy, denser type of dough, let it cool completely. And you see the difference. You will, for those of you that really appreciate the chewer, feeling about the pretzel, then let it cool completely. And then you will feel that your pretzel is a bit more chewy, a bit more dense. If you eat them right when they come out, they are nice and light and fluffy, almost like a brioche, okay? All right, let's get the sugar one. 425 for convection, yeah, that's right. Right, that's ready. Take it. Okay. Okay. And now, Lisa will show you what she does for the cinnamon. The cinnamon pretzel. Okay. So what's your technique here? So that's if you want to do a cinnamon sugar pretzel. So she's putting the butter on the top. Okay. And then we're using tongs because they are very hot right now. Flip them over into the sugar. You want to make sure to dunk them in the sugar right away because while the butter is still melting, because the sugar will actually absorb better this way. Don't you put some more melted butter on the other side? No? You want to do that before you sugar? So what we forgot to do is that you can add melted sugar on the bottom as well. It's like this, the sugar will actually stick on both sides. And make sure that you sprinkle the sugar on both sides. Or you could flip the pretzel around with your tongs. Okay, so see there is butter and sugar on both sides of the pretzel. And you can get a plate ready. Nice. And this is for cinnamon sugar pretzel. Almost look like a cinnamon sugar donut. Do you guys remember when there was like this shop called
Mr. Pretzel.
Mr. Pretzel at the mall, Coquitlam Mall? Well, my kids used to love that. Like we couldn't go to Coquitlam Mall without going to Mr. Pretzel. So that's where they got the idea of doing, that's what they were eating all the time, is the cinnamon sugar pretzel. So yeah, dunking into the sugar. And when you have it face down into the sugar, then you can put another layer of butter on the bottom. Another layer of butter on the bottom, and then you can flip it so that there is sugar on both sides. You guys used to go to Mr. Pretzel? Anybody? You remember that store? Yeah? What was your favorite there? What was your favorite flavor?
Parmesan.
Nutella? Sorry?
The Parmesan.
The Parmesan, yes. But I kind of like the Parmesan too. But I mean, I have to say cinnamon sugar was pretty good. Okay, how long in the oven? So how long in the oven? Start with 10 minutes again. 10 minutes is the minimum. And then if you find that there's just not enough color, go little bit by little bit, like 2 minutes at a time until you reach the desired color. It's usually, on average, it's 12 minutes. But your oven might be very strong, so start with 10 and then you see. It's really, go by the color, you know, like the color is, you stop it when you like the color of it. Okay, so we're done here. We pretty much showed you everything. So if you guys have any questions, let us know. We can answer some questions before we go away, because you guys are probably waiting for your batch to cook right now, and then the rest you can do on your own. As long as you have your butter ready and your sugar ready, it's all good. But if you have any question, just let us know before we go. Do you want to ask anything? Is everything cool?
Oh my God, these are delicious.
You're eating already.
Yeah, I'm having a salty one. It was the smallest one. And oh my goodness, they are really good. Really good and really easy.
They are, right?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. So, of course, if you ever, went to the stadium, what you eat with pretzel? What do you eat with pretzel? Anyone?
Beer.
Beer. That's right.
And mustard.
Mustard. That's right. So, usually it's the yellow mustard, right? That you serve with the pretzel. So you can go with just regular yellow mustard, right? Like this, and just dunk it into the mustard. Or for the gourmet people over there, so I'm talking to the parents now. Just so happens that at the store we received this mustard from Au Pied de Cochon, which is like a very famous restaurant in Montreal. And it's smoked maple baseball mustard.
Woo! Amazing.
So, yeah, if you want to try that, like honestly, with your pretzel, it's just the bomb. And of course, a beer. Now I'm talking to the adults. So that's for the kids. All right, I think we're gonna leave you here because obviously we're gonna eat now.
Thank you, Valentine.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. It was lots of fun. I hope you loved it. I hope you're gonna love your pretzel. Send me some pictures. You can share them on Facebook or on Instagram, or just send me an email. I always love to see what you guys are doing. And yeah, if you want, I don't know when will be the next kids class, but we'll probably do a few during spring break. We don't have, unfortunately, kids spring break class again because we can't resume the classes just yet. It's very unfortunate. So maybe we'll do some mini event like this towards the break. But let us know what you would like to bake next time. Bake or cook, and we'll think about it. Cool. Thank you guys for hanging. Elisa's mouth is too full to talk.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and I send you the recording as soon as it's ready. So give us like about half an hour to an hour max, and you should get it in pretty fast. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome. Enjoy the pretzel.